what led you to working with children? I mean, how did you become the get back on your feet guy?
Well, as far as working with kids, I did a lot of the say no to drug talks and dare talks back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then I moved to South Africa and was living out there for quite a while, and would go speak to a lot of the schools there. So I enjoyed working with the kids, but it was always pretty tough for me because my character was always the big bad guy. So everywhere I went, I had to keep up that persona of being this big, vicious, guy, and being, 7 foot and 370 pounds. I was always bigger than most of the guys I was wrestling against. So by not being able to sign a lot of autographs and talk to a lot of kids because of the way my character was, I kind of missed out on that because I've always liked kids and, especially teens. So I wanted to be able to reach back out to those people again and do something to help that age group, because they've got, so many negative things that are out there for them today that I'd like to at least just be a positive, just a positive point in their life, even if it's just for that 30 or 45 minutes that I'm talking to them. As far as the get back on your feet guy part came, was because I've been knocked on my butt so many times it's ridiculous. But, I've always managed to get back on my feet. And so regardless of what life gave me, whether it was, a bad relationship, issues with addiction, things like that, I still managed to get back on my feet and pull through it. And a lot of it, you were talking about faith earlier. And for me, that's always one of my big things that I'll talk about when I'm doing my speeches, is that, through faith, you're so thankful to be able to have a God that is there for you, regardless to the fact that you're not always there for him. And, it's always something that I have to, keep in mind. And I mean, everybody is something precious to God, and that's what makes the world go round. And I mean, I've always, one of my big verses that's always stuck with me was Philippians 4:13, that I can do all things through him who gives me strength. And through that's always helped me get back on my feet, and that's kind of where the name came from.
It's interesting. A lot of athletes will quote that verse in the Bible. Do you find that a lot of athletes use that verse? I mean, it's just really, I've never recognized that before. And you surely, at your height and as a wrestler and a basketball player, have faced some struggles in sports. And I think that might be where that belief comes from, for athletes to lean into that spot. But it does work with everyone, don't you think?
It does. It's just such a powerful verse. I mean, I think that's one reason why a lot of people and stuff gravitate to learning that specific verse. I mean, it's, because it's such a true thing, is that regardless how dark things may look, God's going to give you the strength to get through it. I mean, he's not going to put you into a position that he's not going to lead you through. So you just have to, I always tell people a lot of times that you've got to have the patience to let God do what he's wanting to do through you. And sometimes that can be an easy path, and sometimes it can be a very rocky road to travel on. I mean, I know for myself, having faith, you're talking about athletes using this, is, I've gone through a lot of injuries doing what I do. And being a professional wrestler is a little bit different than any of the other professional sports, because we don't have an off season. I mean, we wrestle year round. So those times and stuff for injuries to heal, and, we just don't have them because, unless you're working, you're not making money. So you get out there and you have to wrestle when you're hurt and sore, and, that's what tends to lead some of the guys and stuff down the path of addicted to pain pills and having to take sleeping pills and muscle relaxers and things like that to get through, another day, and to get through your matches that night, and, to start over again the next day. It's just a vicious circle.
Okay, so Jeff, now I want to, you spent a long time in sports and wrestling, and wrestling isn't the same. I mean, I'm 59 years old. I remember watching wrestling when I was a kid. It's nowhere as the way it is today. It's a different path. It gets more publicity, I guess. You know what I mean? So now that you're out of that arena, but you're out there doing things that a lot of people could do now from the publicity that they get to being a wrestler, so they're more well known. When you go out and you speak to youth, you have mentioned that you were in other countries doing it. Do you do a lot of that here in the States?
I do some in the States. I'm just getting started doing things in the States now because my career was mostly an international one. So I spent a lot of time traveling around the world and would go and do things through the other promotions that were bringing me in, of talking to kids about various things, just trying to be a good person is what I always try to get through to kids especially. I mean, here in the States, the problems that you tend to run into is that, one of the big things to me is such as the internet. There's, for the amount of good stuff that's in the internet, the bad stuff is out there as much or more. And I mean, I think that leads to a lot of temptation that, when we were growing up, I don't think we had near the temptations that what the kids today have. And that makes it a lot tougher for these kids at an early age to be a Christian and to be a strong Christian because of that.
Right. Right. The internet's a double-edged sword, but I always lean towards the fact that what are the parents doing? Now I know that we're in a two-income world. Both parents usually work. We seem to reward our children in place of disciplining our children. But what do you think the parents play into this? The bullying has been around forever. It just is more available for kids to do, and now that they can video it on their phone, for some sick reason, they enjoy that. So what do you think the parents' part is in this?
Well, I feel like one of the things that they can really help is if they just create a home computer. Don't give, your kids laptops to where they can go off and be alone somewhere to get on to access the internet. But put it in the family room. Because kids won't want to go and access sites that they have to worry about somebody walking through and seeing what's going on. So that I think is a really crucial thing. And, parents have got to really pay attention to what's going on with social media. Like you said, bullying or teasing or however you want to describe it was around for a long time back when we were in school. But when it was happening to us at school, when we left school, that was it. When we got home, we were safe. But today, because of all of the social media that's out there, it really creates a big problem because these kids start feeling like there's no way they can escape the bullying. Leaving school doesn't put an end to it. So that becomes a big problem in these, most of these kids have all got cell phones. So they're checking on their social media and stuff on their cell phones as well as when they get on a computer. So they're always present about what's going on and what people are saying about them. And that's what really starts breaking these kids down because, sometimes these kids can be just absolutely vicious about the rumors that they're spreading on the internet. So I really feel like that's a big problem, is just the availability that parents are trying to feel like they're doing something special by giving them a laptop or giving them a smartphone. And at the same time, they're giving them that ammunition for somebody else to attack them through cyberbullying.
Yeah, it's frightening. Well, here's something I found out a few months ago that was really frightening. So if you don't get your child a phone, if you don't give them a laptop, you don't give them a computer access, all you allow them to do is listen to music on their iPod, okay, just a little device. They can use that iPod to do the same thing that they can do on their smartphone, on their laptop, and on their computer. So as a parent, how do you control that is the question that I keep wanting to understand, because listen, it's really our responsibility as parents to take care of our children, to make sure they're safe, to teach them the right thing. But how many, even if you're a stay-at-home parent, how many places can you be at one time, and how many devices can you learn about to keep up with it? So it has to start younger in life, earlier in life, with your children, that relationship, to build them the ability to trust you as a parent, because they're never going to do everything you tell them to do. I mean, they're kids. We didn't do what we were told to do when we were children. We were always smarter than our parents. And now with the devices that they have, they can argue with you and prove they're right with Google. So how does a parent help their children stay on course so that if they're being bullied, they'll come home and tell them?
Well, that's the most important thing. Really, with everything, if you stop and think about it, is communication. You know, I think that as a parent, you've got to start at an early age, like you were talking about, where you do develop a trust factor with your kids to where they feel like they can come and talk to you about anything. Because if you don't tell somebody you're being bullied at school, nobody can help you stop it without that knowledge. And, you know, a lot of these schools now have started developing anti-bullying policies, which helps with some of the bullying issues. It cuts it down by, they say, 25 to 50% for a school that has a strong policy. But kids are worried about being seen going into the counselor's office and the principal's office, and they don't want to be called a tattletale or a snitch or a narc or whatever they want to call that. So now the stuff, they can go online and fill out these forms with some of the school districts, and there's even a site called Sprigio.com where you can go and fill out the information about a bullying incident, and then they will email it to the administrator of your school. So, but it's all about communication, and same thing with the parents. You know, if you develop that line of communication to where that trust is there, you know, your kids are much more likely to listen to you when you say, hey, you know, this is really something you don't need to be doing, or it could cause problems for you.
Yeah. It's, you know, I'm blessed. My children are grown out of the house. There's grandchildren. It's a scary world out there for the future. Don't know how that's all going to play out. I do know that it's important for people to understand the value of what you're doing. People can learn more about you by going to southernguidance.com as your website. But how about if they want you to come and speak to their church, their community? Do you do things like that?
Oh yeah, and they can reach out to me at Jeff at southernguidance.com, and I'll be glad to come in and speak any place where somebody's wanting me to come. Or, you know, if somebody just needs somebody to talk to about these issues, you know, I'm real good at responding back to emails, and, you know, I've actually made phone calls with people so we can discuss the whole bullying issue and some of the issues of dealing with faith and how, you know, high school kids can be better, you know, at having faith.
Well, Jeff, one of the things I asked all my guests, okay, you've had a very blessed life. You've been able to recognize things. Of course, as we get older, we understand and appreciate more of the struggles that we've gone through in our lives. But when is the book coming out?
Well, we're still working on that. That's I'm probably about halfway through, so we're hoping to have my first book out by the end of the year. So okay. We'll have all that announced on the website once it's ready to go, and you know, I'll be glad to send it out to anybody who wants one.
I think it's important. You know, I think God put us here to share the messages, right? To share everybody's testimony in life. And so what you do and doing what you do, if there's something that they can leave with in their hands, it's a reminder. Because, you know, I always say when people hit fresh air, they get amnesia. They forgot everything they were just learning. So it's important to be able to stay in front of them, and a book would be a great opportunity for them to have you by their side more often. So really appreciate your time with us today. I hope you'll come back when the book comes out and let us help you promote it as well.
Thanks for having me. I love doing it today.
All right. So, one last thing, Jeff, is there something that you can leave with the people for the year 2000?